what supplements could be taken to stop persistent cough that leaves the person in dire need of oxygen? Wow.
Yeah, serotonin is the major thing. Inflammation of the intestine is responsible for the great bulk. More than 90% of all of the serotonin in the body is produced in the intestine. And if it's irritated, that increases. And if your intestine is inflamed, that interferes with your liver's ability to regulate the way the blood platelets handle serotonin, and so the platelets, which should be detoxifying the serotonin, taking it mostly to the lungs where it's destroyed, they can't handle the extra serotonin, which then causes the blood vessel inflammation, leading to clots and or hemorrhaging.
Wow.
And so anti-inflammatory things, first, very easy to digest foods, but aspirin, cyproheptadine is an anti-serotonin that calms intestinal inflammation. And keeping your CO2 up has the action of acidifying your platelets, and the acidic granules in the platelets bind to serotonin and allows the serotonin to be carried to the lungs and liver for detoxifying. And so the hyperventilation caused by the serotonin itself tends to drive off your CO2, causing your platelets to spill serotonin into the blood, causing the clots and blood vessel inflammation, carditis, and so on.
Which all that stuff going on with the shots, right? With the injections too. So, what about breathing into a bag and getting more CO2s? Can you do that?
Yeah, that's the quickest, simplest way to get some. I've seen people control their hypertension, spending a few minutes every day. You can see the blood pressure come down the first or second days of doing that.
Interesting. There's reports with an email of a doctor that had people that had their saturated oxygen levels down to 35 and lived. Can one's oxygen level go that low? And then if one uses carbon dioxide to saturate the body with CO2, this then helps the blood carry more oxygen. Is this partly due to the fact that CO2 would alkalize the body, raising the voltage to then carry more oxygen?
In itself, it doesn't alkalize the body, but the bicarbonate, baking soda, for example, directly regulates the pH, neither too high nor too low. And the CO2 has so many protective effects on blood vessels, on circulation through the lungs, that you're just by adding CO2 to a person with breathing difficulties. For example, on Mount Everest, they were putting people in a big body bag, adding oxygen as a way to bring them out of inflamed lungs and brain from the altitude. But someone noticed that in these airtight body bags, they were accumulating pretty high levels of CO2. It wasn't the oxygen, it was the increased CO2 curing the altitude sickness. And the same thing that happens in altitude sickness happens from the serotonin poisoning and inflammation caused by COVID and other degenerative diseases.
Interesting. Can you ask Dr. Peat how to cure, I'm going to spell it, P-A-R-T-E,